have to meet one more man that wants to be a beat poet 50 years too late. I'm just gonna
You missed
off
the boat.
myself.
I'm sorry.
Hmm.
Nothing.
You ready?
Yes, ma'am.
Ish. Because we
I'm
got
ready.
to be ready.
I'm ready.
Cool.
Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live, talk radio without the static. Email your questions and comments to lynn at pghcitypaper.com. And now your host, Lynn Cullen.
Hello there, and welcome to a Friday, in fact, May 19, 2017, where the world continues to spin, as does your head, in all likelihood, right? Oh, boy. So I missed seeing you yesterday, and, if you go 48 hours with this guy and this administration, it's pretty hard to catch up, but I'll do my best. He's off to on his first foreign trip. He'll be a wreck by the time he comes back. He cannot bear sleeping if it's not one of his beds. He's just going to be. Apparently, everybody's aware of. They're all going to feed him overdone steak with a side of ketchup. The Saudis are going to do it. Everybody's ready to try to make him as comfortable as they possibly can. Oh, God. First stop, Saudi Arabia. But speaking of Saudi Arabia, believe it or not, that brings me to the death of Roger Ailes. And that's what I want to start out with. Because anyone who's ever listened to me for any length of time knows I have said on more than one occasion that if the history of this country is written, let's say 100 years hence, and historians are trying to explain the downfall of American democracy, as they did with Rome, there is no doubt in my mind that one of the true destroyers, the true villains of the tale, is Roger Ailes. I consider him one of the most destructive people I have ever witnessed. He has destroyed more than people. He has destroyed trust in the most important institutions that constitute a nation. And he's done it. He did it with extraordinary skill, extreme cynicism, and extraordinarily fast. Saudi Arabia made me think of him because Matt Taibbi in Rolling Stone magazine penned an obituary of Roger Ailes, and he said that he happened to mention to one of his relatives that he was writing about the death of Ailes, and the response from the relative was, "Say that you hope he's reborn as a woman in Saudi Arabia." Yes, that would be a measure of justice. But there's no way, no way for this guy. He escaped by dying the justice that was due him. Because I've said so often what I said, and I'm not engaging in, exaggeration and hyperbole when I say I really consider him up there with the greatest destroyers of all time. Because I love this country. I love what it's... I don't even know what tense to use anymore, right? What it stood for. And there is no doubt in my mind that Donald Trump would not be president of the United States but for Roger Ailes. There is no doubt in my mind that we would not be at each other's throats in our little bubbles as much as we are, but for Roger Ailes. I have little doubt that the Republican Party would not have gone as totally off the rails as it has in the last 25 years, but for Roger Ailes, because there is no doubt that Roger Ailes and Fox News was more a power politically than either major party in the last 15 years, 20. The Republicans danced to his tune, and Ailes and his network kept pulling the Republicans farther and farther to the right. Let me share some of Taibbi's musings. Excuse me. Because Taibbi agrees with me. Taibbi says he is on the short list of people most responsible for modern Americans' vicious and bloodthirsty character. We are, and this is unpleasant to hear, but here it comes. Damn it! Okay. We are a hate-filled, paranoid, untrusting, book-dumb, and bilious people whose chief source of recreation is slinging insults and threats at each other online. And we are that in large part because of the hyper-divisive media environment that he created. Ailes was the Christopher Columbus of hate. He is the one that destroyed television news. And with it, the total abandonment of any sense of decency or civic duty in the practice of journalism. When he was asked, what he was up to, exactly what was in your mind when you created Fox News, he famously said, I created a TV network for people from 55 to dead. And Taibbi points out that he targeted then initially the elderly, because the elderly, first of all, were the most loyal viewers of television news. They also were more befuddled, unbalanced by all the cultural and technological changes going on. They were easy to play, easy to make fearful, easy to make nostalgic for their youth and a time now romanticized into fiction. And little by little, Fox became the cure for everything that ailed them. All those non-Christians, all those atheists, all those immigrants, those feminists, those terrorists, those minorities crawling over your white picket fence. But his main focus was always the political scare story. And Fox, you see, we've seen it so long, we forget. He created a whole new template of how you do news. And he created a new norm. Talking a lot about norms these days, how quickly they can be changed, how quickly they can be created. And he was a master. So the political scare story. And it would mix the usual kind of sensationalist tropes with demonization of liberals like Hillary Clinton. Man, she was made for Fox News. They loved her. She was a godsend for that network. But here's the thing. When you start ramping things up with sensationalism or whatever, when you start breaking norms apart, the audience then gets comfortable with where you've taken them. And when they get comfortable, they tend to get bored and they might turn away. So you have to up the ante. And Fox did that, gradually upping their game. Ailes and Fox, this is Taibbi again, Ailes and Fox over the years graduated from simply hammering Democratic politicians to making increasingly outlandish claims about an ever-expanding list of enemies. Soon the villains weren't just in Washington, but under every rock, behind every corner. Immigrants were spilling over the borders. Grades were being denuded in schools by liberal teachers. Marriage was being expanded to gays today, perhaps animals tomorrow. Acorn was rigging the votes. These are all Fox stories. Fox generated it. The Republicans picked up on it as their agenda. Ailes created this Republican Party. Back to Taibbi. And then when he ran out of real storylines to mine, he invented some that didn't even exist. His Fox network was instrumental in helping Donald Trump push the birther phenomenon into being. And it was Ailes who elevated the almost non-existent new Black Panthers into a threat as potentially huge as ISIS. If this is all news to you, it's because you don't watch Fox. He warned Republicans through Fox that there would be urban troublemakers, blacks, all to continue to harden and radicalize his audience. You know, he came out of television initially, and then he took his skills of knowing how to manipulate people through the power of television and imagery. And then he took it to politics. He helped elect Ronald Reagan. He helped elect George H.W. Bush. And in fact, poor old George sent out his condolences on the death of Ailes and flat out said, I didn't always agree with him, but I don't think I would have been president without him. So in the creation of Fox, he melded together these two worlds he knew very well, entertainment and politics. And the result was the politicization of the media, which I don't care how many people say, well, they were all a bunch of liberals. Blah, 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 blah. No, they were sort of just journalists. That's boring. Try to get the facts. Try for neutrality journalists. But when Ailes decided, Taibbi again, to cordon off Republican audiences and craft news programming targeted specifically to them, he began the process of dividing the entire media landscape up into political fiefdoms. You're conservative, you go over here to Fox. You're liberal, you go over there to MSNBC. You're sort of in the middle, you go to CNN. But everybody had their place to go. That change alone was one of the dangerous, horrible, destructive things he did. Taibbi again. Ailes trained Americans to shop for news as just another commodity. Not just on the right, but across the political spectrum. We all now treat news as a commodity. It's a consumer product. We buy the product that pleases us. And we live in the little bubbles where we get to nurse resentments all day long and no one ever tells us we're wrong about anything. It was Ailes who invented those news bubbles. And here's Taibbi's last words on the subject. Our media landscape is now a perfect Ailesian dystopia, cleaved into camps of captive audiences, geeked up on terror and disgust. The more scared and hate-filled we are, the more advertising dollars come pouring in on both sides. Trump, in many ways, was the perfect Ailes product, merging, as he did, the properties of entertainment and news in a sociopathic programming package that, as CBS's chief, Les Moonves, incredibly honestly pointed out, I'll never get over this quote, that Trump was terrible for the country, but great for our bottom line. So CBS, part of the mainstream media, the ones that Ailes taught his audience to loathe, they went along with the Trump train too, because money. Even knowing he was wrong for the country. Les Moonves should rot in hell for that too. All of them should. Jeff Zucker at CNN, the whole bunch of them. And here's Taibbi's end. When Ailes died, he left behind an America perfectly in his image, frightened out of its mind, and pouring its money hand over fist into television companies who are gleefully selling the unraveling of our political system as their entertainment product. The extent to which we hate and fear each other now, that's not any one person's fault. But no one person was more at fault than Roger Ailes. He never had a soul to sell, so he sold ours. It may take 50 years or a century or more for us to recover. Even dictators rarely have that kind of impact. Actually, his last line is so vicious. I didn't say it, but I guess I'll tell you. It's not. I don't like to edit things for you. Enjoy the next life, you monster. So, I'm just saying. Wasn't sure if you saw this in yesterday's New York Times. No, I didn't, Beth. Thank you. It's a letter to the editor from Harold Prince, who is, of course, a renowned Broadway director and producer. Actually, I was with Joel Grey the other night, and who starred in Harold Prince's Cabaret. And he talked about the phone call in which Prince said, "Hey, I think I've got a part for you." Here's Harold Prince. There's a saying in the theater that whoever occupies the star's dressing room creates the atmosphere backstage. If you have a leading lady or gentleman who is easy to get along with, undemanding, friendly, and charming, the cast follows suit, and you have few, if any, problems. If you have a diva, though, or a narcissistic star, the atmosphere turns viral. I've been thinking about that recently in terms of our national trauma, and I believe that the star in our dressing room has brought about the epidemic of dangerous mood changes, random episodes of violence, and a general malaise in the lives of most Americans. I'm more than observing it. I'm living it. And that from Harold Prince, who knows theater. So, latest news of this morning is, just in case you missed it, I'd like to kill this guy too. I'm sorry. I am. Look what we're becoming. I won't include you. I'm becoming murderous. Anthony Weiner is going to plead guilty to sexting a minor. Yeah. He's going to plead guilty to a single charge of transferring obscene material to a minor. This is a plea agreement, and he surrendered to the FBI early this morning. What this means in terms of jail time is unclear. A judge will decide that. The charge carries a sentence of 0 to 10 years. All right. So, but I was looking at my other stuff here. I'm going to leave Trump alone for just a second. So I happened to went to I went to a Chris Rock concert last night at the Benedum, and I have to tell you, I found it a strange experience and not totally good. And that really didn't have a lot to do with Chris Rock himself. It had to do, or maybe it did, I don't know. But man, I first of all don't necessarily enjoy going to places where there are large crowds. I really just don't enjoy it. But since Chris Rock won't come and perform just for me, if I want to see him or see somebody else, I gotta suck it up and go be with a bunch of people. I have never gone into a theater experience in which the level of cops and security outside the front doors was beyond belief. I felt like it made the TSA, it made getting on an airplane look easy. I'm sick of it. I am just sick of it. Where my arms are up, I'm being this and thatted, my purse is clawed through. I get to a certain point and I am told, give me your cell phone. I give them my cell phone. They drop it into this little case and shut the case. It locks the case, and then they give it back to me. My cell phone is now absolutely of no use to me at all. I can't even get to it, even though it's in my purse. Everybody in the audience had a cell phone in that kind of a situation. The cops. When I left, the cops, and I thought, what is this? What? And I asked one of the people on the way out who unsealed my cell phone, what the hell is it? I said, is this normal for any concert, or is this just because of what? And she said, my understanding is Mr. Rock demanded it. Well, I don't know if that's true or not, but if he did, I'm mad at him. And if he didn't, then I'm mad at the Cultural Trust. And I don't understand why. What is this crap? Are we that fearful? It's like a new security industrial complex has emerged. Somebody created those little pouches. They had to have had thousands of them because the theater was full. These little amazing pouches. The Cultural Trust had to have bought them, or unless Chris Rock supplied them, which I doubt. And I was with a friend who has an extremely ill husband who's in and out of the hospital. And she said, I'm really freaked about this. What if Jack needs to... I really don't know what... And then eventually she actually got up, went out, asked them to undo her phone, went out onto the street and called him just to tell him that she was unavailable so that he would know. But there are people who on occasion really... they do need access. Anyway. I really hated that. And I also hated some people in the audience, and I just can't, I don't know. There were two women behind me just shrieking at everything. A shriek. I just can't. And the guy next to me was asleep the whole time. He slept with the women shrieking. Chris Rock was pretty good until the end, when I thought he went off the rails because he was talking about something personal that has hurt him deeply, his own divorce. And I thought, that went off the rails, Chris. And also, who did I see there? Clarence. Clarence. And I met his brother, one of his brothers, and... Clarence had backstage passes signed by Chris Rock.
Hi, Clarence.
Is that Clarence?
Hi, yeah, it is. Clarence.
Okay, well, let's get him on because I want to find out if he met him. All right. Hey, Clarence? Clarence?
Yes.
Hello.
Yes.
Hi.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. I wasn't sure I was on it now.
Okay.
Yeah,
So,
I met him for all of, let's say, 5 seconds.
but that's pretty big. I thought you were going to say one, where you just said,
Yes, it was like a line of people with those backstage passes
Sure.
up against the wall, and one of his assistants took your cell phone and took a picture for you, and they handed your cell phone back, and you moved out.
That's the way it works. So you didn't have a chance to say, I got this pass because my sister... No.
I did. That was the 5 seconds.
Okay, and you told him what?
You could tell that my baby sister, who taught his kids, when she was living in New York, that's why she knows him. And I said, yeah, I'm Nikki's brother, and thanks for the passes. That's basically what I got to say.
And what did he say? Did he?
Okay.
Okay.
He said,
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. And next, you
Yeah.
could tell he was tired. And the weird thing was, I called my, I can pretty much read people. That the guy on stage, that's like a Chris Rock character.
Yes.
As you can see, he's like shy and
Yeah.
He's like a shy guy.
Isn't that interesting? Sure.
Yeah.
That's not. I mean, often that's the case. I say the same thing. Lynn Cullen, the person behind a microphone or on stage, is a lot more sure of herself and socially comfortable than Lynn Cullen without those trappings. It's the same. I don't think that's unusual.
Neither do I, because I always tell people that the guy you meet out on the street, that funny guy,
Yeah.
who will talk to anybody, is a character that I play. I've been playing that character probably since I was a little boy.
Yeah, right.
And where I got it from was my older brother that you met.
Oh, really?
My personality is a copy of his. Although I think mine is more refined now.
Well, maybe you've been working on it. His might just be natural, and yours is,
Yeah, his is exactly. His is natural, and I took his, and then I, added some flavor to it. Just like you take your grandmother's recipe for lasagna, and you add your own little bit.
Yeah. So what the hell were you put off by all that friggin'? God dang it! I hate that.
No.
Security.
I expected it.
I've never seen
the
that.
cell phone thing. I expected it because main reason why, especially comedians, do it is because people will go in and record the show and put it on
Right.
YouTube or something, and then people don't need to pay to go see the show. So they lock up your cell phone so you don't sit there and record the stand-up. As a matter of fact, you remember that joke I told you about him talking about God don't make mistakes.
Yes.
He said, "Have you ever been to Pittsburgh?" That was the bit, except he used Mississippi.
Mississippi.
And
That's what, my friend turned to me when he did the joke. He was doing a whole thing on God makes mistakes, And Clarence, before we even went in, had said, that you had heard him in a, or you knew that.
It was a YouTube video.
It's a YouTube video. And it
was basically him. He was in a comedy. He was in a like a small comedy place.
Yeah.
And he basically, how comedians are. They kind of like test their jokes out in small places before they go on the road with them.
Right.
And it was that joke. There was a couple of them.
The joke is God makes mistakes, and in the YouTube, the thing you saw, the video, he says, look, Pittsburgh.
He said, "Yeah, have you ever been to Pittsburgh?" Yeah.
So that was the punchline. We were a mistake.
The punchline was Pittsburgh. Yeah.
He tells the joke last night. He tells a joke last night, and the punchline is Mississippi.
Yeah. Which actually works out better because he didn't go that far with, your drive, how you drive through it and it looks all beat up. He didn't go that far when he just said Pittsburgh was the punchline. He moved to the next joke.
Okay, because that was just an obvious.
Video.
So he refined it. He refined it and got us off.
Refined it, exactly.
Unbelievable.
And Mario Joyner, do you know Mario Joyner? Have you ever heard of him?
I had not. His opening act, Mario Joyner, is a Pittsburgher, and I thought he was wonderful. And I bumped into him in the lobby talking to some of his buddies, his friends from Pittsburgh. And I went up to him and said, "I just thought you were fantastic. You were really wonderful." And he said, "Yeah, thanks." And he clearly did not want some white old lady telling him that.
I ran into him as I was coming back in from, the break that everybody got their cell phones.
Yeah, me too.
Outside.
Me too.
Yeah. And that's where I ran into him, and I said that joke where you said I'm 50 something and I've never been married and never have any kids. I said that's like me.
Right.
I said, you know what I'm doing after I leave this show? He goes, "What?" I said, "Absolutely nothing." I gave him his punchline. And I remember him from like the 80s and the 90s. I was surprised how many people had never heard of Mario Joyner. I said, "You kidding?" I said,
"Really?"
He had his own MTV show. The comedy show. He hosted a comedy show on MTV. And
I don't know.
He did Letterman.
I thought he was really.
I was surprised.
I thought he was really good.
Yeah.
Really good. And then the guy who came on after him was awful. And I just wanted desperately to get to the main. And then before you get to Chris Rock, they have an intermission. That pissed me off too. I was in a pissy mood by the time Chris Rock came on. I'm an old lady. I got to go to bed. I didn't even get home until 11:30 last night.
My little sister, my younger sister who was there with me, she just kept walking with her friend. And my brother, we're both sitting there complaining. I said, "Oh, so you guys?" I said, "You guys aren't comedy connoisseurs. This is normal." I said, especially for somebody as big as Chris Rock.
It is.
I said, there's an intermission. I said he has opening. I was surprised he had two. I said, there's usually an opening act. They get like a half an hour. And I said, then there's a break. And then Chris Rock usually doesn't, anywhere between like an hour and a half, an hour and 15 minutes or an hour and a half. That's Chris Rock.
Well, see, I didn't know. I didn't know that that's what happens at a concert, because when you see it on TV, they don't give you the opening acts or the 20-minute intermission. Whatever. I was too tired by the end, but I mean, he's pretty damn good, no doubt about it.
Mm-hmm.
Send me your.
I didn't even know he got. Sorry, I didn't even know he had. The divorce was news to me.
Yeah, it was news to me too.
I had no idea he was. No idea he had gotten a divorce.
I think he needs to work through it a little more. Yeah, because I thought he got really into sort of misogynistic territory in a way that I did not think was funny. I mean, I'm capable of laughing at women and jokes, and I don't know. But anyway, it was great seeing you, and send me the picture of you two.
Okay, I was gonna say it's on Facebook, but I'll send it to you so you don't.
Thank you, because I just don't
like something. Your friend that you were with, had a picture up, and I liked it. So.
I know she and you. I know you Facebook people, but I'm not. So, thanks, Clarence.
Okay.
Great.
You're
Bye.
welcome.
Okay. Bye. Bye. So, backstage pass. I just want to say about the idea of Joe Lieberman heading the FBI made me puke when I saw it. And please, dear God in heaven, no. That self-righteous, droning bore. God, I can't stand him. I couldn't even stand him when he ran on the Democratic ticket. I couldn't stand him. Gore and Bore, remember that great ticket? Yeah. All right, so I happened to see Trump yesterday live doing his the thing you have to do after you meet with another head of state, where you come out and you make a statement somebody wrote for you, and then the other guy makes a statement, and then they take a few questions. And this was the first time that Trump had to answer questions. But I have to tell you, that's not what I want to talk about. Trump read that statement like, I mean, our countries are, it's a little, and then he finished up and he turned. He has this petulant look on his face. He turned to the Colombian president, who proceeded to do his little speech. And it was a two-shot the whole time. So the Colombian president's talking, and Trump is standing there, and you could see the short attention span, angry, pouting little boy who has no impulse control at all standing there. He didn't even, how you're the president. The president of Colombia is giving a speech. There's a certain way you behave, right? You have a pleasant look on your face. You look at him. Not Trump. Oh my God. Oh my God. This sort of like he just didn't. I kept thinking, oh my God, what is going on in his head? What I wouldn't like to hear what's going on in his head. This guy wants so desperately to be able to go back to his life, that wonderful life he had. And he can't figure out how to get there. I'm sure a lot of people will help you, Donald, but you might not like it. And speaking of getting him back to his life, impeachment, don't hold your breath, because of the Republicans So we hear, and increasingly hear, people talk about the 25th Amendment, which is that the vice president and majority of the cabinet can essentially just say the president is incompetent, unable to perform his duties. This amendment, by the way, came about after the assassination of John F. Kennedy. And the reason for it being, all of a sudden people thought, wait a minute, what if he had survived the assassination but was incapable? There really is no amendment that helps us then allow a vice president to take over as president, not as acting president, as president, if the guy who was elected is alive. So that's where the 25th Amendment comes from. Charles Krauthammer, who makes my skin crawl, has a piece today that I find very interesting. And he says, so the country is now caught in the internal maelstrom that is the mind of Donald Trump. As I was sitting there watching him on TV trying to get inside that mind. It's a frightening place, I'm sure, to be. And Krauthammer knows it. And he says, so inside that mind, you're in the realm of the id. Chaos reigns. No guardrails can hold. And then he gets around to Republicans are beginning to panic. He would know. He is one. Republicans are beginning to panic. And they're beginning to whisper about the 25th Amendment. That would fend off impeachment, but it would allow for getting rid of the guy. And here's what Krauthammer says about that. And it's an interesting take and worth taking into consideration for those of us who want him gone at any cost. Krauthammer says this is the worst idea. It perverts the very intent of that amendment. It was meant for a stroke. A president gets a stroke or half his brain is blown away. It was not meant for stupidity. It was not meant for Alzheimer's. No, it was meant for Alzheimer's. It was not meant for narcissism. Because he says otherwise what it essentially, the 25th Amendment authorizes, is a coup. It's a coup. A willful overthrow by the president's own closest associates. And Krauthammer's saying, that's just not American. He said, I thought we had progressed beyond the Tudors and Stuarts, liking it to the kind of coups that occurred in England back in the day. Moreover, he says, this would be seen by millions if you were to invoke the 25th Amendment as an establishment usurpation to get rid of a disruptive outsider. It would be the most destabilizing event in American political history, the gratuitous overthrow of an essential constant in American politics, namely the fixedness of the presidential term. The only way the president should be sent out the door is for high crimes and misdemeanors, that is impeachment, or if he becomes literally ill, physically ill, that's what he's saying, Alzheimer's or stroke. Because he said the people elected this guy. Trump's behavior is no different than it was before he was elected. The people elected him. It's been there all along. The electorate chose him nonetheless, that he was an uncontrolled, chaotic id. And Krauthammer says a decent respect for constitutional governance requires banishing the thought of invoking the 25th Amendment here as a way to get rid of him. I'm just saying. Yeah, I almost didn't read it because I thought, Krauthammer, and then I thought, hey, Bubble Girl. Hey, Bubble Girl, do it. Just do it. Get a point of view that you might not agree with, because part of the problem is that you and others don't do that. Okay. Ellen could this writes about the rock thing. Could the cell phone lock be due to desire to prevent recording the concert? Yeah. I'm just sick.
Listen, I have to go.
What is that, a call? Okay. Mike? Hello?
Hey, how are you, Lynn?
Fine. I must tell you, you are not allowed to engage Celine in long conversations. Oh, that wasn't you?
I couldn't help it.
Oh. She said it wasn't him. Because, like, we're sitting almost next to each other, and then I get distracted. Okay. So, what's up?
Well, first, it's debatable whether he won fair and square. I think Russia played a part in that.
Yeah.
But that's not the reason I'm calling.
Okay.
The reason I'm calling is because I heard a theory the other day that really makes sense. The reason the Republicans won't ever turn on him was because of Twitter. To say they get him out of office. Mike Pence is in office. Mike Pence will still vote the same way Donald Trump votes. So why don't they get rid of this idiot? What's the real motivation? And this talking head said the real motivation is because then you have him out in the field talking to all those Republicans, tweeting to them how horrible the Republican Party treated him. So they'll never knock back him for fear of him turning on them individually and them losing their seats. And I think that's genius and something I had never even thought of.
But, okay, so that's why they wouldn't do the 25th Amendment. They wouldn't do anything. They're afraid to touch him.
Right. Because he'll attack them via Twitter, even out of office. He won't just meekly go away like Hillary's done, or like Bush did, or Gore did. He won't meekly go away. He'll just gin up the 400 million people who voted for him, or however many people voted for him, and turn them against the Republican Party.
Well, actually, that's what
create a third party.
Right, that's what Krauthammer actually is saying, and he's saying you can't do that. It's gonna be looked at as a coup by that hunk, that 35 to 40% of Americans who would then turn on the people who initiate the coup, which would be Pence and the Republicans.
Right.
Huh.
So he's not going to be, unless we get a different Congress, he's not going to be impeached.
Well, how are we going to get
alone.
You tell me how we're going to get a different Congress when we had an election Tuesday here, primary election. You know what the turnout was? 17%.
No.
Americans don't get it. They don't get democracy. They don't get they have a role. They don't take it seriously. They bitch and moan when things don't go the way they want it to, but then they don't vote. It is beyond belief. After all of this, a 17% turnout. Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
It's totally believable. The best prediction of future behavior is past behavior. All we need to look back, and the reason we're in this boat is because Democrats mostly don't vote in off-election years.
Well, we were sort of hoping that they might have figured out that that's a bad idea, that you end up with. Now, granted, this was a primary. There were no legislative seats at play. It was boring things like judges, like that ain't important, and school boards, like that ain't important. But there were mayoral races in Pittsburgh and such. One Trump guy, one Trump mayor, a Democrat who invited Trump to his town, Monessen, did get knocked off.
Oh.
Yeah. He got knocked off. Monessen, which you would think would be Trump territory, Mm-mm. So that's one little, I guess, ray of hope. But 17%, I'm sorry. The problem is our fellow citizens more than anything else. So.
Well, on a bright note, the Pew Research Center, I'm reading this to you, says that 23% of Republican voters ages 18 to 29 have switched parties since 2015. So young people are turning away from that party. And I hate to put all my hopes on young people, but that's at least hopeful news.
Well, I can tell you my own son, registered as a Democrat just because he understood that he had to do that to vote around here. But I don't think he's a real Democrat. I think he finds the Democrats repulsive and the Republicans frightening. I don't know. I don't think they're into the parties. But let's hope. They certainly won't be into the Republican Party. And the Democratic Party is the only alternative. Friedman had a piece the other day where he said, sorry, it's fish or chicken. You gotta take it. You can't, right? You gotta take a choice. You might not like either of them very much, but if you don't want to starve to death, it's fish or chicken. Choose.
You may want steak, but it's not that kind of event.
That's right. All right, you. Hey, thanks. Good to hear from you.
Keep up the fight.
Okay, you too. Bye. Bye. We've got Tim on the line. Tim? Hello?
Hello.
Hello.
Hey, so don't take this the wrong way because I did not get an absentee ballot and didn't vote in this last election.
Okay.
I was out of town, so I'm as guilty. But I always wonder why you never talk about any. You don't really cover any of these state
local stuff.
Talk about anything other than Trump on your show either.
That's true.
So,
That's true. That's true. It consumes me. You're right.
I totally agree with you. I know we both agree with each other on that, but I always wondered if there was maybe if on your show maybe you could have some of these candidates on or
no. No. You know why?
How the hell do we pick a judge? Because it's boring and everybody would turn it off.
Yeah. I got news for you. This is an entertainment program. No. I'm not going to. I can't stand interviewing politicians. I cannot. I've done it a gazillion times, and now I have total control. I ain't going to do it. I'm just not. Because you don't learn anything from them. They never answer your questions. It's just an exercise for me in absolute frustration. They all got their talking points. They stick to them. It makes it difficult for a voter to ferret things out. But, they do. My sense now is whatever you do, I'll tell you, if somebody is a Republican, you do not vote for them, okay? We know this much.
What about this? You did have the ACLU on, right? And you had Planned Parenthood on. That's correct?
Yes.
Well, you're on the board of the ACLU. Well, what if you had them talk about, some of those candidates and or the issues and such? Is that a way to approach it?
No, I don't know. I'll think about it. But listen, when it comes to the there's too many legislative races. See, the thing is to zero in on. I have talked about certain legislative races around here. I have done that. I will work in any way I can to help oust Tim Murphy and to oust Keith Rothfuss, okay? Those are I can touch those districts with my elbows. And I will put anybody running against either of those guys on air. Not that it's going to help.
Right. So what? I mean, because I'm always curious as to like when, whatever, voting for 20, 30 years or whatever. So how the hell does anybody ever figure out which judge they're voting for and stuff like that? It's
You
not
tell me.
different
You
anywhere,
tell me.
unless there's something horrific. So,
Yeah, you tell
that's
me.
part of the reason I didn't bother.
I
Yeah, 'cause
understand.
Once again, I didn't like, oh, I'll vote for all women or something like that. That doesn't seem like a very good way to do it.
Yeah, no, I understand, Tim. I absolutely agree with you, and your little poke at me was yeah.
Well,
Well deserved.
that's why I opened it up with a poke at myself, so I don't really point fingers.
Okay.
So.
Well, thank you. I'll try a little harder.
All right.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. William writes, chicken or fish? That's it. We need the steak party. We got another call. We're running late here, guys. Who is it? Who? Joe? I got about 1 second. Joe?
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I was going to tell you that, I don't know, you don't watch sitcoms, but that Downward Dog was filmed in Pittsburgh. It's about a dog.
I know what it's about. Yeah, was it any good?
Yeah, and it's an okay show, but it's kind of fun to see the places you know.
That's right.
Kind of like when we have somebody filming Beaver County, same thing. And there's a lot of different ones.
Okay.
That's all I had to say.
I'll probably take a look at
we'll
it.
see.
It looks like a cute dog. Bye. Bye. Okay, and before we leave you, oh God, I got so much stuff here. I can't get to it, guys. By the way, speaking of also Trump and his tweets, which was brought up by Mike, they're saying that Trump has to lawyer up now, and that his legal strategy is being complicated by his tweets. Because while a president can invoke executive privilege, here is somebody who wrote the book on executive privilege. He said, all those tweets makes it extremely hard for Trump to make a claim of executive privilege after he has already put it all out there publicly. So he can't say, well, I am the president and I cannot talk about what happened in the Oval Office with, what do you mean? You did a tweet right after it. You did a tweet on this. Well, you said this about that. His tweets are going to do him in. They're going to do him in. And quickly, I got to get this in. There's a little town in Sweden. It's very beautiful, apparently. Scenic town of Övertorneå. And one of the people in the town legislature, 42-year-old guy, proposed that to lift the town's birth rate, that they proclaim a 1-hour sex break for local employees. So that everybody gets 1 hour a day off to go and have sex. Well, even though it's Sweden, it didn't pass. The town's 31-member council overwhelmingly rejected the proposal on the grounds that why should sexual intercourse be the thing that you get to take an hour off for, when for some people, that discriminates against people who are asexual, people who don't have a lover, people who might want an hour off to do some gardening, right? So they thought it was very problematic. And also they said it's not the reason, it's not that people aren't having sex that the town's getting older and older. It's because they're a little town and their kids go away to bigger cities when they grow up. But this actually went a little too far for even the Swiss. A 1-hour sex break. Man. Man. Actually, the sexologists who testified said they thought it was a wonderful idea, although the women might need more than an hour. Because, women can't just bang. All right, you got 1 hour. Go have sex. It doesn't necessarily work that way. So, I guess that's it. I think we're done. I'll just let Chuck's email in. When you listen to people like Comey and Clapper, both so impressive with their knowledge, both make you feel safer in their roles. But Lieberman would make me feel less safe, and that's putting it lightly. This guy can't talk his way out of a box. Yeah, no, I can't. And listening to the Democrats react to him, they don't want him. So I don't think that's going to fly. But then, who am I to make predictions of what's going to happen next? Next up, President Trump will be lecturing the Saudi Arabians on Islam. I cannot wait for that. All right, guys, it's going to be a hell of a week, I'm sure. And take a break this weekend. Have a good time. And go Pens.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper or its advertisers.